journey of ancient time when British have came to India. How East Indian Company conquered India or trade to territory. So let's begin. Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers. He established a control over a very large part of the territory that is now known as India. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors and big zamindar began asserting their authority and establishing a regional kingdom. As a powerful regional kingdom emerged to the various parts of the India, and Delhi could no longer function as an effective center. By the second half of the 18th century, however, a new power was emerging on the political horizon, the British. Did you know that the British originally came as a small trading company and were reluctant to acquire territories? How then did they come to be the master of vast empires? In this chapter, you will see how this day came about. In 16th century, the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth, granting it the sole right to trade with the East. This meant that no other trading group in England could compete with the East India Company. With this charter, the company could venture across the ocean looking for new land where it could buy goods at cheap price and carry them back to Europe and sell at higher prices. The company did not have fair competition with the other English trading companies. Mercantile trading company in those days made profit primarily by excluding competition so that they could buy at cheap and sell at dear. The Royal Charter, however, could not prevent Europeans' power from entering the eastern market. By the time the first English ships sailed down the west coast of Africa, round Cape of Good Hope, and crossed the Indian Ocean, the Portuguese had already established their presence in the western coast of India and had their base in Goa. In fact, it was the Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer who has discovered the sea route in India in 1498. By the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibility to trade in the Indian Ocean. Soon the French traders arrived on the scene. The problem was that all the companies were interested in buying the same thing. The fine qualities of cotton and silk produced in India had a big market in Europe. Pepper, cloves, cardamom and cinnamon too were great in demand. Competition among the European company eventually pushed up the prices at which the good could be purchased, and they reduced the profit that could be earned. The only way the trading company could flourish was by eliminating the rival competitors. The urge to secure the market therefore led to the fierce battle between the trading companies. Through the 17th and 18th century, they regularly sank each other's ships, blockaded routes, and prevent rival ships from moving with the supply of goods. The trading were carried out with the hours, and the trading posts were protected through the fortification. This effort to the fortify settlement and carry on profitable good also led to the intense conflict between the local rulers. The company therefore found difficult to separate the trade from the politics. Let us see how this happened. First English factory was set up at the bank of river Hooghly in 1651. This was the waste from the company traders known at this time as factory operated. The factory had a warehouse where goods for export were stored, and it had offices where the official companies sat. As the trade expanded, the company persuaded merchants and traders to come and settle near the factory. By 1696, he began to building the fort around the settlement. 2 years later, it bribed Mughal officials into giving the company zamindari rights over the 3 villages. One of these was Kalikata, which later grew into the city of Calcutta or Calcutta, as it is now known today. It also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb issue in formatting the company to trade with the duty free. The company tried continuously to press for more concession and manipulating the accepting privileges. Aurangzeb's pardon was instance granted on the company on the right to the duty free, but officials of the company who were carrying on the private trade on the side were expected to pay duty fee. This they refused to pay, causing an enormous loss of revenue of Bengal. How could the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Khan, could not protest? Through the early 18th century, the conflict between the company and the Nawab of Bengal were intensified. After the death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawab were asserted their power and their authority as the other regional power were doing at that time. Murshid Qul Khan, followed by Ali Wardi Khan, and then Sirajuddaula as the Nawab of Bengal. Each one of them was the strong ruler. They refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for company to trades, denied it any right to mint coin, and stopped it from extending its fortifications. Accusing the company decide, they claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amounts of revenue and undermining the authority of Nawabs. It was refusing to pay tax, writing a disrespectful letters, and trying to humiliate the Nawabs and his officials. The company on its part declared the unjust demands of the local official were ruining the trade of the company, and the trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. It was also convinced that to expand trade it had to enlarge its settlement and buy up villages and rebuild its forts. A conflict led to the confrontation and culminated in the famous Battle of the Plassey. When the Ali Wardi Khan died in 1715, Sirajuddaula became the Nawab of Bengal. The company was worried about its power and leaned on its puppet ruler who would willing giving trade concessions and other privileges. So he tried through without success to help one of Sirajuddaulla's became rival and influenced Sirajuddaula asked the company to stop meddling in the political affair of his domains, stop the fortifications and pay the revenues. After negotiation failed, the Nawab marched with the 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at the Qasim Bazaar, captured the company official, locked the old warehouse and captured all the Englishmen, and he blockaded all the ships. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish a control over a company ports there. On the hearing the news of fall of Calcutta, company official in Madras sent a force under the command of Robert Clive and reinforced by Nawabal fleets. Prolonged negotiation with the Nawabs followed. Finally, in 1757, the Robert Clive led the company army against Sirajuddaula at Plassey. One of the main reasons of the defeat of the Nawab was the Mr. Jafar was one of the Sirajuddaula commander who was never fought the battle. Clive has secured his support by making his Nawab after crushing the Sirajuddaula. The Battle of Plassey became famous because it was the first major victory won by the Company of India. After the death at Plassey, Sirajuddaula was assassinated and Mr. Jafar was made the new Nawab. The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration. Its prime objective was the expansion of the trade. If this be done without conquest, through the help of local rulers who were willing to grant privileges, then territory need not to be taken over directly. Soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawaz was not always helpful, as the company wanted them to be. After all, they had to maintain a basic dignity and subjugated if they wanted a respect from others subjected. What did the company do when Mr. Jafar protested? The company deposed him out and installed a Mr. Qasim in the place of Mr. Jafar. When Mr. Qasim complained, he in turn was defeated in the battle fought at Buxar in 1764. Then he driven out from the Bengal and the Mr. Jafar was reinstalled.
Nawabs had to pay rupees 5 lakh every month, but the company wanted more money to finance its war and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. It wanted trade, more territories, more revenue. By the time Mr. Jafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed. Having failed to work with the puppet Nawabs, Clive declared, "We must indeed become Nawab ourselves."
Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. The Diwani allowed the company to use the resources of the Bengal. This solved the major problem that the company had earlier faced. From the early 18th century, its trade from the India has expanded, but it had to buy most of the good in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. This was because at that time Britain had no good to sell at India. Outflow of gold from the Britain stalled after the Battle of Plassey. Now revenue from India could finance company expensive. This revenue could be used to purchase cotton, silk textiles in India and maintain company troops and meet the cost of building the company's fort and offices at Calcutta. Thank you for watching the part 1. We will continue this chapter in the part 2. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any doubt, comment in comment section. Please share this video with your family and friends and subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon at all.